After Novak Djokovic lost in the third round of this year's U.S. Open, a friend of mine said, it's funny, this major, this U.S. Open is like a hangover. So welcome to the Hangover Slam. And Djokovic wasn't the only one, obviously. Take a look. All three medalists, gold, silver, bronze, were out within 24 hours. Within a 24-hour stretch, they were all gone. In fact, everyone who made the quarterfinals at the Olympics this year on the men's side, for some reason it's not affecting the women the same this year, but let's stick with the men here. Everyone who made the quarterfinals has lost already, except for Tommy Paul, who we're recording this before the match tonight, just before. We are going to add another section, so this video will talk about Sinner and Tommy Paul. I'll record that after that match is over. It's a late-night match. Anyways, I'm assuming Tommy Paul is probably going to be out. Sinner is a heavy favorite there. And then, of course, Zverev, the only person in the quarterfinals, if Tommy Paul loses tonight, to make the quarterfinals at the U.S. Open. Of course, look at the top 8 seeds here from tennis channel Deutschland. We only see 3 of the top 8 seeds here. That would cover most of the guys, but not everybody who made the quarterfinals at the Olympics this year. So a lot of surprises this year's U.S. Open. No surprise, though, the fact that of those top 3 guys, 2 of them are hardcourt specialists, a la the style of Denis Medvedev. Rublev is out, of course, but Medvedev and Sinner right there at the top. Sinner barely behind Rublev, has a chance to beat Rublev's most hardcourt wins on tour since 2020 record, moving him to the second place spot. But more important than that, let's point out this, a big moment in tennis history. First year since 2002 that Nadal, Federer, or Djokovic did not win a slam. Truly the end of an era. I think Djokovic can still win a major next year, but not impossible that he doesn't. This could be the end. So let's just take a look and enjoy this for a moment. Appreciate what this is. Look at all these years. 2003, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all the way up to 2023. Starting with Federer winning only Wimbledon in 2023, ending with Djokovic winning almost every single major in 2023, almost winning all 4. Of course, doing that in 2021 as well. Most of these years, these guys won not just one major, but usually all of the majors between the 3 of them. They usually won every single major for over 20 years. So just look at those years for a little bit and think about, where were you? What were you doing at that point in your life? 03, 04, 05, 2014. Where were you? What were you doing? What were your accomplishments? What were your dreams? How far have you come? Well, whatever your answer is to that question, it doesn't mean much. It's basically nothing compared to what these guys were able to accomplish. But still, we can't all be like the big 3. How did it happen? How did Djokovic go through this year without winning a single major? Well, that would be a long, complicated answer to that question, and we don't really have time for that on today's show. So we'll just tell you this is how it happened, at least here at the U.S. Open. This guy, big poppin' Alexei Popyrin. All smiles, all fun and games. But then he gets very intense. Then he goes a little dark with the long stare down. I don't know who he's staring at. Maybe his coach. His run would be ended, of course, by this guy. Almost 6 years since he made his first quarterfinal. Now he's back in the quarterfinals of the U.S. Open. I remember this match like it was yesterday. 2019, Grigor Dimitrov on the top of your screen, Tiafoe on the bottom.
Francis Tiafoe celebrates his 20th.
There's a lot of 7s in that score.
By booking his place in a major quarterfinal for the very first time. One of the matches of the tournament so far. Grigor Dimitrov is out.
His 21st birthday. That's how he celebrated. Well, actually, I think this is how he celebrated, because this is what he said about Novak Djokovic even making the trip to New York for the U.S. Open. Tiafoe says, he's done everything in the game. It's incredible he's even out here. Like, if I did what he did after the gold medal, I'm just staying in Serbia, and I'm chilling. I'm drinking like crazy. I mean, that's why he is who he is, right? And maybe that is why Tiafoe is who he is and did not make another quarterfinal for over 3.5 years. He would not make another quarterfinal until Alcaraz won his first U.S. Open, won his first major. That would be 2022 U.S. Open. Tiafoe makes the quarterfinals again after that long drought going back to 2019, the beginning of the year at the Aussie Open. And now Tiafoe has done this. The only American men, he's made the quarters or better since 2022, every year at the U.S. Open now. The only American men to play in 3 or more U.S. Open singles quarterfinals since the year 2000, Roddick, Agassi, Sampras, and now Francis Tiafoe. Well, I'm not sure Frances Tiafoe is going to be alone on that list of active players to make 3 or more U.S. Open quarterfinals for too long because, of course, Tommy Paul could do it. Ben Shelton definitely could do it. And then there's this guy who's already made 3 Grand Slam quarterfinals in this year alone in Taylor Fritz. If Tiafoe is able to get past Dimitrov, that could be pretty tough to beat Taylor Fritz for him, who has already won 15 major matches this year, the most by an American man in a single year at the majors since Andy Roddick 2009 with 16 wins. Of course, Fritz would have to beat this guy, who I think is even more likely to stop Frances Tiafoe from getting into his first ever Grand Slam final. In the third round of 2024 U.S. Open, Zverev beat Echeverry for his 100th career Grand Slam match win. He's the first man born in the 90s or later to win 100 Grand Slam main draw matches. On top of that, 4 consecutive U.S. Open quarterfinal appearances for Alexander Zverev, of course, skipping over that year where he got hurt at the French Open playing against Rafa. All the speculation, take a look. There's the quarterfinals on the bottom half of the draw. All these surprises, all the speculation makes me think of something my friend said to me. He said, Matt, all these U.S. commentators are saying this is a big opportunity for an American man to win a major because of all the upsets in the tournament. But these American guys, none of them are ever going to win a major, is what he said. He really said that. And, surely they're going to have a chance somewhere. Maybe Tiafoe will get a chance, right? Maybe Fritz will get a chance, right? One day? I don't know, but when I look at this, comment below what you think. When I look at this lineup on the quarterfinals of this mysterious, intriguing bottom half that people are wondering who's going to come out of, it's not an American name that my mind gravitates to first or that I'm willing to bet my money, my house, my car, or any of my possessions on to be in the final on Sunday. Welcome to Coffee Break Tennis. I am your humble host and lover of the game of tennis, Matt Bradshaw, and today we are again drinking the Warsteiner Brewers Gold Geldenbeeren in honor of Novak Djokovic's gold medal victory. Of course, it will be his only significant victory of this year. Today's show is brought to you by CoachLife Tennis. Do click the link in the description below. Do it right now and sign up for the free subscription. You get a free subscription to them for 1 week. You can check out all their content, all their coaching content. It'll help your game. It'll help you coach. And I want to take you on a deep dive today. I'm going to take you inside of CoachLife because since Frances Tiafoe is doing so well, I thought it'd be interesting to show. They have videos all about the forehand, the backhand, the serve, the volley. They focus on the coaches who got a hold of famous players when they were very young and who put the foundations down, right? We see all these coaches clapping, saying, come on, right here, let's go. Come on, this point, let's do it right now. Tiafoe's coach the other day, he was going, body, serve at the body. Hey, serve right here, serve here, which did come in handy when he was trying to serve out that match against big poppin' Alexei Popyrin. But they also have stories of how the coaches develop these guys. They like to share their stories, and this is great. We're going to go a long time on this, but I think you're going to like it. Let's start with the Frances Tiafoe story from CoachLife Tennis's inside their database, inside the vault of tennis coaching gold that they have, that you can get for free right now if you click the link below.
Francis's father had 2 kids, Francis and Franklin, and then he was divorced, so they stayed and lived at the tennis center. They were living in a massage room. It's all over Google. It's all over national television networks. So when I got hired, the kids were already living in the tennis center. I met Frances on October 23rd, 2006, and all the other players in the program at Tennis Center College Park were taken. So you got to go all the way to the bottom and find a kid. I basically started coaching him, started talking to him. After about a couple of weeks, I came to his father and I said, look, can I be his coach? I want to make him a champion. I would like to take him to tournaments. I'll be all in. I'll do a lot of extra work. The father said, yeah, do whatever you want with him. He's yours. When I met him, he was 8 years old. He was not that good. He was like Ethan. Regular.
That's all amazing, but the first thing I want to say is poor Ethan. What did Ethan do to deserve that? I mean, he looks pretty good to me. He's got a pretty good forehand, but there's a bigger point going on here. They're building up to the fact that, the myth is that these guys are so talented from a very young age. Yeah, sometimes that happens. Maybe with Roger Federer, you could tell he was pretty talented from a young age. But most of the time, a lot of these kids, they're not that special. They're just really into tennis, and they're lucky to have a guy like him around, right? Tiafoe, I mean, it's hard to say he was lucky that he was living in a massage room. Did you catch that part?
Technically, he just had a drop shot, no forehand, no backhand, no serve, you know. So I just started to teach. Yeah, racket keeps moving, racket back through the top.
So he'd go on to talk about how he built TFO from the ground up, basically saying that TFO didn't really have anything except for some slice and drop shot ability. I'm guessing on the backhand side because, that's how I was. I tried to teach myself. I started at 18 right after I graduated high school. I played with people who weren't that good, but I loved it. And I could slice. I could slice a lob. I could kind of slice a drop shot all on the backhand side. Other than that, I had no strokes whatsoever. And it wasn't until I was in my early 20s that I finally was working with a coach. And I can guarantee it was not a fun project working with me, the guy that had 0 strokes. Anyways, he would go on to explain how he came from the Soviet Union. He came from after the fall of the Soviet Union. He moved to the U.S., played college tennis, wasn't good enough to make it in the big leagues, but he had a dream to make it by being a coach. And he was very hungry, and he thought TFO was like literally hungry because the family didn't have any money, and was probably hungry to get out of that situation where he's living in the massage room in, basically a small office on the grounds in the tennis center. It's pretty crazy. His dad was the janitor, and that's how they had that arrangement. Anyways, listen.
Now, what do I want? I want to make it to Grand Slams. I don't have any kids to coach. I have a dream. Then I met a lady that coached a Russian player before, Vera Zvonareva, to top 10 in the world.
Remember her?
I went to lunch and ran into her. She said, look, you want to make some money, you want to make something of yourself, you make a professional tennis player. You got to grab somebody at the bottom, take him all the way to the top. She said, find a player, go to work, make him pro. So I figured what I need. This boy's already there. Parents are tall, so he's going to be athletic.
So that blows my mind. He says, the best players, the best juniors in the program that he was working at were already taken. He looks at TFO and he says, well, this kid lives here. He's always here. So I'll have a lot of access to him. I could work with him a lot. And his parents are both tall, so he'll probably be athletic. That was all he was going on. And then it turned out that the athleticism didn't come very easily. Take a listen to this. Turns out TFO, which I heard this is when he first broke out, I had heard kind of from a friend of mine who knew some coaches from the ATP Tour, actually. Not naming any names, but the word on the street with the coaches was that TFO was a little lazy for a pro tennis player, right? He wasn't working like a Djokovic. He wasn't working like a Rafa on his game, on his fitness all the time. And after he had some initial success, remember, he kind of fell back. I think he got close to top 20, and then he fell out of the top 50 for a while there and struggled. And Wayne Ferreira kind of professionalized him a little more with the practice. I remember one of the first things Wayne Ferreira did for TFO was tell him no more phone during practice. You can't be texting and looking at your phone when we're doing tennis practice. You got to focus more, man. Anyway, so take a listen to this. This goes to prove that TFO might have been not the hardest worker back then, and maybe after his initial success on tour. I guarantee he's working harder now as you see the results coming in.
Then I ran into all kinds of problems. He didn't want to run. All the kids were doing fitness and running. He's the only kid walking. Jump rope. For 6 months, he could not do 2 jumps. He make 1 jump, he cannot get the second jump. I got goosebumps right now talking about it because that's how crazy it was.
Now, if you're watching this and you're a tennis coach or you ever worked with kids at all, you know that is extremely common, right? That's a big part of what I deal with all the time are, kids that they're interested in playing tennis. They like hitting the ball. They don't really like running. They don't like sweating or competing. Pete told me that Rick Macy tells kids when they show up to his tennis camp that if you don't want to work hard, if you don't want to get sweaty and be hot and uncomfortable, just quit now. Tennis is not the sport for you. But somehow this guy was so driven by his dream that he was able to work TFO and convince TFO into working a lot harder. This is a question that I'm sure anyone who's ever worked with a famous player gets all the time, and I think it's very interesting, this answer. What did TFO have special talent? Was he more talented than other kids his age?
Was the kid more talented? Everybody asked me. Every newspaper, every TV station asked me, was the kid talented? No, the kid was not talented. There were another 4 or 5 kids like that. He had a twin brother that actually had a live arm and looked even better, right? Twin brother didn't do much because he got in trouble. His dad set him out. He did all kinds of things, okay? Francis didn't want to get in trouble. He didn't want his dad to give him belt, okay? You get belt if you get in trouble, okay? His dad was from Africa. His dad was living in a closet, in a maintenance room. He was sleeping on a massage table.
I love that. I mean, that's pretty funny. Was he talented? No, the kid was not talented. There's 5, 6 kids every bit as talented as him walking around that tennis center. Nothing special. It really is so true. Like, that's kind of the secret to life. And we'll get to that in a second. But also, I think that's funny, he's saying, He's saying, look, he's from Africa. He's sleeping in a closet on a massage table as his bed. He's giving the kids the belt, no surprise. And I think if you're a younger sibling, a lot of people will know right away, like, oh yeah, I saw my older siblings getting punished and I knew I wanted nothing to do with that. So TFO's got a few things going on for him. Even though he's growing up very poor, you can already see just the fact that he's got this guy in his life, the fact that he's living, right? He's living at his dad's work, who's a janitor. That's not ideal, but it's a tennis center. So some things he got very lucky with, right? This doesn't sound like a guy with a very lucky background, but if you think about it, some of the stuff worked out just right for him. This is where the coach basically says that Francis was not just learning tennis with him, but he was kind of learning how life works. And this is why I always say tennis is such a great thing to get. If you're a parent, get your kids involved in tennis. Click the link below and go to CoachLife. There's all kinds of resources so you could start being like Richard Williams and working with your kids right now. If you're not playing tennis and you have kids, maybe. Anyways, I always say it's a great thing to teach kids tennis because you learn so much about how to be successful at anything. Tennis is so hard. It's one of the hardest sports. And, it's just you. You don't have a team to pick you up. And that's really how life is. You have your family is kind of like a team helping you succeed, right? If you're lucky, you have that. But for the most part in life, it's just you, and it's really hard if you want to be successful. Tennis is a great way to learn how building, growing, dreaming, and accomplishing goals works. Let's move on to him talking about that, basically.
When you learn to work hard and you learn to like fitness, and then when good things start to happen to you, you slowly, from being lazy, you slowly start to work harder, so that way more good things can happen to you. You can go on a trip, you can go to a nice restaurant, you can go on the jet ski with Misha, in Miami.
I want to go on the jet ski with Misha.
You can see nice things, so we can rent a nice car. You don't want to come back here and live in the ghetto in Hyattsville, Maryland, okay, with 6 people in a 1-bedroom apartment, Well, you don't want to do that. So you're learning about life. You have common sense. This is bad, this is poor, this is medium. Oh, wow, we're on a trip. So we want to go on a trip again in 2 weeks. Misha's taking me on jet ski. I better get on that jet ski. So I'm going to work so hard.
So I think that's pretty amazing stuff, Like, I know many of us Americans were trained by movies and media to be kind of afraid of Russian guys, but Tifo is really lucky he had this Russian guy who was so hungry to be famous by being a coach of famous players and getting into the pros that way. He's lucky he had this guy in his life. Anyways, he'd go on to say that the secret is to visualize, and he cited Kobe Bryant. He said, just like Kobe says, visualize and dream and have these long-term goals, and then be ready to work really hard for nothing, right? This guy, you gotta, again, click down below on the link. I'm visualizing right now a dream that you will click the link below and go to a screen that looks like this, and you will put in your name, your email, and your password. Yeah, you put in the password so you can log in. And then you can log in right away. You have 7 days free access. After that, they'll charge you $10, which is like nothing a month. And for a 7-day period, if you decide you don't want it, even if you don't cancel within the first week, you got a second week where you can email them and say, sorry, I forgot to cancel. They'll refund your money back if you're a crazy person and you don't like all this coaching gold that you get inside the CoachLife website. So again, I'm visualizing a dream for you right now, and that is you will click the link below. I'm waiting. You can go right now. I'll still be here after you're done doing it to finish up this video. Anyways, I think it was great. He goes on to cite that, like Kobe Bryant said, you have a dream, you visualize it, it's a long-term goal, and then you get ready to work really hard. He said everybody wants stability. Everybody wants, a full-time job that has some security to it. But if you want to do something really, truly great, whether it be succeeding in tennis or something entirely different, it works that same way. You visualize it, and then you work really hard for basically nothing. And then one day you get there. One day you get there, and it pays off big. And let's go to Grigor Dimitrov, who will be trying to stop TFO from fulfilling his lifelong dreams at the US Open. And he basically says the same thing. They said, you were great. People started to forget about you and you struggled. Now you're doing really great again. You're back in the top 10. You're only one-handed backhand in the top 10. What's the secret? He says, there's no secret. There's no secret. There's no shortcuts. Of course, I had my doubtful moments on so many levels. But once you win those little battles with yourself, it kind of propels you to do something better, to be aware of the opportunities that come around. That's why I always say you have to be ready for whatever comes your way. I mean, in a way, it's not just tennis. I think it's everything. As in, basically, he's saying, this is the secret of life. this is what you have to do. I have found in my years playing tennis and in my years struggling and trying to do different things, I do pretty good with music. I'm not like a super famous guy. I'm not like a Billie Eilish or anything. But I make money most weeks from playing music, and I have a lot of fun doing it. And I remember being terrible at that, but imagining myself one day playing in front of people and they enjoy it and I get paid to do it. I thought I'd be very famous. It didn't get, not that good, but I'm still doing it. One day I imagined that I would make money from doing tennis things, only tennis things. I didn't want to have a regular job ever again. I didn't like the last job I had before I started teaching tennis and doing this channel as well, which also helps with that. Of course, most of my money comes from teaching tennis, but my whole income is from playing music and teaching tennis. This is something I would not have thought I could do 20 years ago. Even I've been doing this for 10 years now. That was the last time 10 years ago. A little more, maybe 11 years ago was the last time I had a job that wasn't tennis related. And even back then, I thought about it. I kind of dreamed it, but I didn't really fully believe that it'd be a thing I'd be able to do. Anyways, moving on. I just gave you the secret of life, so the least you can do is click the link down below. Anyways, let's look at this bottom half of the draw. Again, Taylor Fritz will play Zverev in the quarterfinals. We will talk about the top half of the draw. We will get there eventually. And like I said before, I'm filming this right before the center match should start. Center match should start pretty soon, maybe about an hour. The women have already started. Fritz beat Casper Ruud. I initially said, because this court is slower than it was supposed to be, that Casper Ruud probably can come through. It's actually still very fast, and I think that helped. Plus, Casper Ruud had some really long matches. It honestly, it looked like he could have won that match, but he just kind of hit a wall physically. Nakashima came out really hot, but Zverev, this is a huge opportunity for him. Right? When I said in the beginning of the show, like when I look at these names, it's not an American that jumps out at me. It's Zverev or Dimitrov. Especially Dimitrov too, because like even though I give Zverev a better chance than Dimitrov's got to be looking at this like this might be his last chance to ever win a major. And that's what all these guys want. And we showed you at the beginning of the show, the last 20 plus years, no one had a chance to win because the big three won everything. And now here it is, this golden opportunity. Alcaraz is out. Sinner is, very likely to win still, but he's only going to get better and better, right? Sinner's going to get better. Alcaraz is going to get better. It's going to be harder and harder to beat them in the years to come. So for Zverev, for Tiafoe and Fritz too, obviously, but especially for someone like Dimitrov, this is looking like a very, very rare chance to maybe take one of these things down. Court's playing fast. Court takes well to the slice. Dimitrov is very good at those things. Tiafoe good at those things too. This is the reason why Tiafoe's really only had success at the majors on the hard courts. Starting with 2019 was playing pretty fast at the Australian Open. Got a lot faster after 2016. And it's been playing pretty fast since he started having success here. It got a lot faster after those years that Rafa won it. It got even faster at the U.S. Open. You could maybe make a case that Rafa wouldn't do so hot at the U.S. Open this year or the last couple years when Tiafoe started having success here. Anyways, so let's move on to this question. Great intro to the show, Matt. Did you like that New York video? I'll let you in on a little secret. Almost all that footage from New York I shot last year. It was too much work to edit it all and get it done for last year's U.S. Open. So I kind of realized halfway through it, like maybe I should just can this stuff and use it for next year. So hopefully I tricked everyone into thinking I was at the U.S. Open. I was not. Anyways, great intro to the show, Matt. Glad to see you back and looking forward to more content. Now that both Alcaraz and Djokovic are out, what are your predictions for the tournament and who has the highest chance to make the final from the bottom half? It's shaping out to be a very interesting and competitive part of the draw. We're going to dive into that deeper. Here's another one. Ajay Bain said, Matt, I wanted to ask you about Sasha. Is there any part of you that drifts to the possibility that this tourney could finally be his moment? This is earlier, right? This is comments from, a few matches ago for Sasha, I think. This tourney could finally be his moment. He's played at a very high level for most of the year. He's won big tourneys before being beat by players. He's won big tournaments before by beating big players, just never all together at a slam, making it, all fit together, right? You can beat Djokovic at the World Tour Finals. I think did Zverev beat Joker and Federer back-to-back that year he won the World Tour Finals? Can you beat Rafa, Roger, and Novak back-to-back-to-back? I think the only person who ever did that was David Nalbandian, maybe? I can't remember now. Anyway, so yeah, you get the point. Can he finally get it done? There's never been a question about his game, but can his mind finally get it done? Or is he one of those guys that until we see it, we just can't believe in him? I think about that loss to Dominic Thiem in 2020 here. It was Thiem's moment finally. Both players' post-match on-court speeches were unbelievable to see. It was so real from a human perspective. I loved your show when you called it the Poopin' Ponson final. You had me laughing for hours, bro. They both definitely were so nervous. He continues, I thought about this before the tourney as I had a feeling U.S. Open sometimes have upsets, which is true. You know, it's a long year. A lot of guys, even especially top guys who have been winning a lot throughout the whole year, are pretty worn out by the time they get to the U.S. Open. I think that's part of the reason why Joker's won the U.S. Open less than other majors, because he's usually pretty worn out because he wins so much at the Aussie, at the French, at the Wimbledons, right? He typically gets here pretty worn out and already having won 2 or 3 majors. Anyways, I didn't expect Carlos and Novak to lose so early, though. I just want to know if you think Sasha can finally get it done, or is there always going to be something missing mentally and psychologically for him to finally have that moment? Are we willing to push all our chips to the center of the table on him to get this done, right? Are we willing to bet the house? Are we willing to bet the car? Well, I will say one thing. I didn't know this earlier in the tournament, but Sasha apparently has been getting over a cold, being sick. He still has a cough, I heard a couple days ago. Only said this in German media. It's kind of hush-hush. Not everybody knows about this, which is pretty typical. Federer would have done the same thing. He would say it in Swiss German. And for some reason, tennis media, English-speaking tennis media, doesn't do the extra work and doesn't find out about it. And Roger knew that, and Zverev knows that. Speak it in German, and most people, speaking of German, if we ever do your show early enough to have coffee instead of beer, in honor of Novak Djokovic, we will be drinking, which he speaks German as well. He speaks a lot of languages, Novak Djokovic. We will be drinking German gold coffee imported from Germany, 100% Arabica. I never know if I'm saying that word right. You can see right there a German flag. So it's all gold all the time for the rest of the year in honor of Novak Djokovic. Anyways, so that is one thing against Sasha Zverev. Of course, he's going to be playing this guy. This is about to get pretty fun right here. Oh, yeah. Big banging. Oh, yeah. Bang it harder. Oh, my God. This is what it's all about. Can we change the direction? There we go. Oh, don't go his back, Tan.
That is a video game, not a tennis point.
That is a video game. Of course, Zverev was up 2 sets to love, and then would lose after winning 6-4, 7-6 in a tiebreak in the second. He loses the third 6-4, fourth 7-6, and then the fifth 6-3. Let's go to the Associated Press to give us a refresher on what happened in that Wimbledon's match. There was a little controversy, if you remember. After Taylor Fritz deposited a backhand that Zverev didn't even chase, wrapping up the Americans' comeback from a 2-set hole in Wimbledon's 4th round Monday, the men met at the net for what turned into a longer than usual chat. No, not because he said, have a nice flight home like he had done before. The French were not a big fan of that, of course. Zverev, playing with a bone bruise in his right knee, said he was bothered by some of the cheering coming from Fritz's guest box in the 5th set. That would be Morgan Riddle, Fritz's influencer girlfriend. When Fritz began to move away, Zverev stuck his chest to block the path and continued the mostly one-sided exchange. This wasn't the 13th seeded Fritz's only noteworthy post-match interaction, right, when he was rude to the French guy, Arthur Rindekaneshie. Zverev said later that his issue wasn't with Fritz or his coaches, but rather with others in the winner support group that are maybe not from the tennis world, that are not used to watching every single match. They were a bit over the top. He's talking about Morgan Riddle, the influencer girlfriend, of course. He's totally allowed to be annoyed, said Fritz, if they were being annoying. That's one of the things I asked him at the net. Who was it? And Zverev didn't want to say, your girlfriend, bro. It's not a big thing. It's all good, said Fritz. He thought he was going to win. He was in a great mood against Lorenzo Musetti. Of course, he would not. Just like he probably won't get into the finals of this U.S. Open either. The implication from Zverev was there was no need for the entourage to be acting quite so excited when his knee, which was covered by a gray sleeve after a fall in the previous round, was such a significant factor in Monday's outcome. Zverev said, I was playing on one leg, bro. It was fairly obvious that I wasn't 100% today, right? I wasn't moving really the entire match. I wasn't running for drop shots. If I was running for a drop shot, I was limping more than I was running. So, with that said, I think Zverev is playing for some real revenge here. He would love to look at the girlfriend in the player box after he beats her boyfriend. Guarantee you that. He would love to get revenge for that match. And I give him a good chance I think he's had some time to get over the cold. If he's feeling well enough, I really like his chances a lot. Like he said, he's playing on one leg at Wimbledon. We'll see how much of that was true or a little bit of an excuse. I mean, I'm sure it's true. How significant was the injury? He should win here. The court is playing very fast, it turns out. Take a look at this. Well, it's playing fast. It's playing faster than previous years, is what Djokovic said. But it's not playing as fast as they said it would. I think that might have been, those comments were made when Cincinnati was still happening, and then Coco Gauff got bounced out. And they said the fast court was, I wouldn't be shocked if the U.S. Open last minute slowed the court down just a little to help Coco Gauff, because there's nothing more that the people running the U.S. Open would love than for Coco Gauff to win it. Forget about the men. They think Coco Gauff winning is a better chance. They're not willing to bet on the American guys who always lose all the time. And they wanted to help her out. Again, it's a conspiracy theory. I'm just saying it wouldn't shock me. And I have no proof, but take a look at this first. Court in Cincinnati is the fastest of the season this year, is from earlier in August. Rumor is the U.S. Open court is playing very similar this year as well. So you can see last year, Cincy was 34.6, which is, fairly fast compared to so many slow courts we have on the tour. This year was 42.5. I mean, that's as fast as the fastest years we see at the Australian Open, at Shanghai, at the World Tour Finals indoor courts. These are the kind of conditions that Federer would love. It's a shame Federer didn't get this in his last years. He might have been able to grab another major here. Anyways, he did pretty well. Let's look at his numbers. Well, excuse me. First, let's finish this. Pro Tennis Better Nishi on Twitter said, how fast are the courts in this edition of the U.S. Open? This is where I first started saying, the courts aren't going to be as fast as they claim. Stacey Allister, the U.S. Open tournament director, said, we aim for the court pace rating to be medium fast. Medium fast per the ITF is anywhere from 41 to 44. All 17 courts have been resurfaced. The average CPR right now is 42. I'm trying to remember what the fastest I've ever seen a court on tour. I mean, not much faster than that. In light of this statement, it seems that the courts are faster this year. However, the data from the qualifiers doesn't reflect that. Rather, the opposite. Let's compare the U.S. Open qualies in 2024 versus 2023 on the right side. Points won a first serve, it went down 2%. Service holds went down almost 4%. Aces per game went down as well, not as much, but definitely went down. Tie breaks per set went down slightly, not very much there, but it went down. So all these metrics that if you don't have the actual court speed itself, we can look at to try to gauge, those would suggest that it's playing slower, just that alone. This is what it was last year, just in case you don't understand court speeds. French Open was 29 or less. Indian Wells was 30 to 34. Remember when Medvedev said, this is not a hard court, this is not a hard court. I am a hard court specialist. This is not hard court. This is, clay disguised as a hard court. Very funny moment when he's yelling at the umpire in the middle of an Indian Wells match. Western and Southern Open, that's Cincinnati, medium 35 to 39. You see how it shot way up to 43 now this year. Miami Open, 40 to 44. Always a lot faster than Indian Wells. That's why Rafa always did so well in Indian Wells. The ball, it's more sandy and gritty. They mix sand to slow down hard courts. So his ball would kick up and bounce. The high altitude made it fast, so there was fast conditions, but through the air fast, not off after the bounce. So fast through the air for Rafa and then bouncing really high. Rafa really likes that. That's why he likes the French Open. The clay is always warm and hot, so it still plays pretty fast, but it grips it and bounces really high. Helps his forehand to kick up high to people's backhands like Federer's. Miami Open, much less sand. Rafa never won there. Australian Open, Rafa won there, the least for his majors, or there in Wimbledon, pretty close. Anyways, 40 to 44. Last year's U.S. Open, 40 to 44. And everyone was saying it is slower than Cincinnati. This is what Iga Swiatek said. I mean, only the courts basically. I had, some days off after Cincy, so a little bit less time to be on court and to feel that. But still, a couple of days to get used to it. So I think I'm going to find it's just they're much slower compared to Cincy. Joker said they're faster than previous years at the U.S. Open, so they could be slightly faster than last year, but since he was like the fastest it's ever been this year, and Iga was saying they're much slower. That's why in my first video, some of the predictions I made in my draw were based on that, thinking that the court would be slower than it actually is. Anyways, it should fit me, but on the other hand, you still need to get used to it, says Iga. Francis Tiafoe said on the court speed, this was a while ago. This is basically before the tournament started when he was just out there practicing. Tiafoe on the court speed of the U.S. Open, definitely on the slower side, he said, especially compared with the Cincinnati Open. So with that said, let's look at how Zverev did. Now, courts speed up the more you play on them. The more you slide on it and run around on it, the sand gets worn out of the mix, and it gets faster and faster. So it's safe to say it's playing, even though it's not as fast as the fastest ever edition of the Cincinnati Open, it's pretty fast this year. So let's look at how Zverev did at the Cincinnati Open. Catching off big server. Ben Shelton, big server. Zverev able to handle those guys. I think Zverev is a better returner than them. So the fast court helps Zverev hold serve, helps those guys hold serve, but since Zverev is a better returner, can outplay them in the rallies, he wins. Took out Carreño Busta in a close match, who is a really good returner. You know, Carreño Busta is kind of, you could say in some ways, he's kind of like a poor man's Djokovic. Pretty flat shots, doesn't make a lot of unforced errors, really good returner of the ball. If he learned how to serve the way Djokovic serves now, especially in the latter parts of his career, Carreño Busta would have probably won a lot more. He never was able to serve the way Djokovic has been able to. Sinner, much better returner than Zverev, and a big serve himself. Fast courts definitely help him. Sinner took Zverev out in a very close match. When we look at the history of Taylor Fritz and Zverev, going back to 2016, Wimbledon, Washington, they play pretty fast compared to tour averages. Even though Wimbledon is much slower these days than it used to be back in 20 years ago. Zverev winning both those matches. Taylor Fritz is very young back then. 2019, Fritz gets his first win on a fast court, indoor hard court in Basel, Switzerland. 2021, Wimbledon, Zverev beats him again. 2021, Indian Wells, we know how slow that one is. Taylor Fritz beats Zverev. 2022, Zverev takes him out in the ATP Cup. That's in Australia, pretty fast court. 23, Taylor Fritz takes him out, which I think is the rebranded version of the ATP Cup, the United Cup. I can't even remember those stupid cups. I wasn't paying as much attention to those tournaments, but something similar. Of course, 2023, we can throw that one out because that's after the horrific ankle injury for Zverev. That's probably his first tournament back since he got hurt in 2022 against Rafa. I think I have that right. Yeah, that's definitely the timeline there. 2024, this year, Zverev, more like himself, always does well on the clay. He takes him out 6-4, 6-3. And then more recently, this year's Wimbledon, well, we can throw that one out as well. I think it's safe to say that Zverev is going to beat Taylor Fritz. Will he beat Dimitrov or Tiafoe? I mean, he's definitely the favorite in this section. Lucas Krummer says, well, before we move on to that, I'll just say that I got to pick a guy. I'm going with Zverev. I think he's obviously the one. Can he beat Sinner or Medvedev in the final? Those guys have done it before. And that's where the mental from the original comment comes in. Ajay Baines and Terran 720. But it was Ajay who really pointed out, and sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, broski. Ajay, he was the one who was pointing out that is Zverev going to be able to mentally do it? He couldn't against Thiem, and that was his first chance. I think he gets another chance here. I think he comes through. I don't think it's American. I don't think it's Dimitrov. As much as I'd love to see him, he plays so similar to Federer that I would love to see him come through here and win it for Fed. That'd be an amazing story for Dimitrov to finally do it. But if I had to put my money on it, I'm going with Zverev to get to the final, to win the final against either Medvedev or Sinner, who I think he will be meeting there. The guys who mentally have already done it. I mean, we can't say. I probably wouldn't bet on him, but this might be his best chance for so far, and maybe his best chance he ever has in the future. Maybe he won't get a chance this good again as Sinner and Alcaraz get better and better. He's been doing everything he needed to do going into that match with Rafa where he got hurt a couple years ago, and ever since. He's worked very hard. I think he had his issues with not working hard enough. We heard Juan Carlos Ferrero fired him. He was the coach, and he said, I don't want to work with this guy anymore. He's got an attitude, and he doesn't work hard enough for me. I think Zverev has figured that out early enough in his life to where he still has time. And I think he's got a great chance, but we won't know until Sunday. I think that's the match we get, and I think we'll find out if mentally he's able to do it or if he's going to choke just a little bit against a guy like Medvedev or Sinner who's already done it. Moving on, Lucas Krummer said, thoughts on Dominic Thiem retirement? By the way, love your content. Would love to see you travel to one of the other slams too. Well, it's not a slam, but there's one more big event happening this year that I'm traveling to, and I'll make a special video for, so do tune in for that one. If you think about the big three, I'm sure you can guess which event that is. Also, das Fats that I'm Deutsche sprechen. Anyway, I've said too much. This is what Emma Raducanu said, and I'm going to say this because Djokovic said, Dominic Thiem, great player, blah, blah, blah. And he finished his comments on Dominic Thiem when asked about Dominic Thiem playing his last match at the US Open. He said he won't be forgotten. Dominic Thiem won't be forgotten. Emma Raducanu might disagree. She said she was asked about Andy Murray. What's it like not playing with Andy Murray on the tour? Are you sad? Blah, blah, blah. It doesn't feel different at all. I think tennis is unforgiving in that sense. And a lot of people got angry, I understand. There was some at least angry comments to this. And I think this is another life lesson that we all need to learn at some point. I agree with Emma Raducanu. Tennis is unforgiving in that sense. No matter who you are, it just moves on. There's always another match. There's always another tournament. It's a fast pace, just like life is, It's old news the next day kind of thing. And I think, people who really love tennis, and so many of us started to love tennis in the Big Three era. And by the way, they're forever, That's the amazing thing. Andy Murray, I think, he's got a lot of staying power, and he might go on to be a successful coach. Who knows? But Andy Murray, yeah, people will remember him. The Big Three, everyone will remember them forever. Guys like Del Potro that broke through, and took out a Big Three player to win a major. I think the big tennis fans will definitely remember them. Same for Dominic Thiem. But I can't remember the ratings on that COVID slam, that 2020 U.S. Open. How many people were watching it? Was it more? Was it less? It might have been more because so many people were home and not able to do stuff. I can't really remember that, but I think what Emma Raducanu says is true, that the tennis world kind of moves on, and even though Djokovic said he won't be forgotten by the people who are really into tennis, like Djokovic himself, like me, like most people who watch Coffee Break Tennis, will remember Dominic Thiem. But unfortunately for him, I don't think he was able to hang in there long enough, and because of the Big Three also, to win enough majors to be etched into people outside of Austria and maybe Germany's forever memory, other than the huge tennis fans. Anyways, speaking of people that time moved on and almost forgot him, Grigor Dimitrov, who was supposed to be so good, and he was. He's a very good tennis player, but because of the Big Three and other factors, he never won a major. This is the first time he's made a quarterfinal since Roger Federer was wearing this thing in 2019. I remember exactly where I was the moment Dimitrov pulled off the upset. I was, I'd seen Federer that year at Miami win it, and I was thinking that Federer would be able to get a major. Of course, we know what happened in 2019 Wimbledon, and we saw that U.S. Open maybe could be a chance for Federer to win a major since he was so close at Wimbledon. And it was Dimitrov, of all people, the one they used to call Baby Fed before Dimitrov got really mad one time and yelled at a fan in the crowd for saying Baby Fed. And most people don't say that anymore. They're kind of scared now. Dimitrov is back since that big win in 2019. We look at the head-to-head. I think Dimitrov's got a good chance to come through TFO, even though TFO is playing like he's got destiny on his side right now. And this is his favorite tournament by far. But if you look at the head-to-head, TFO doesn't match up really well with anyone left in the tournament. So the odds are, if we look at Medvedev's head-to-head with Nuno Borges, who he destroyed today, 6-0, 6-1, 6-3, those head-to-heads, they tend to be pretty good at predicting the future outcomes of matches. TFO did win that one time, what was that, almost 6 years ago at the beginning of 2019. Other than that, 2018 TFO is pretty young. But 2023, last year, at Wimbledon, a place where TFO's games should work pretty well. I guess probably the movement's more of an issue for him there compared to hard courts. He got destroyed by Grigor Dimitrov, 6-2, 6-3, 6-2. If I got to put my money on, I'm probably going with Dimitrov tomorrow, but I think that's a tough match to pick. And, TFO probably could outlast Dimitrov in a long 5-set match, you would think, although Dimitrov did a great job in that Rublev match. Will Dimitrov, he's a lot older than TFO. Is he going to have the energy left over after coming through that 5-set, 6-3 in the fifth, I think, with Rublev? I don't know. Just based on the past, I'd probably go with Dimitrov here, but that's a really hard one to pick. My draw says Dimitrov, so I'm sticking with that since I don't have a whole lot of correct picks on my draw this year. Against Taylor Fritz, TFO really doesn't want to see him. He won one in 2016, and then he lost 6 in a row to Taylor Fritz. That doesn't look like a good matchup. How about Zverev, the other guy he could play to get to the final? He won one in 2017 in Cincinnati. Other than that, he's lost 2, 4, 6, 7 times on all kinds of surfaces and all kinds of cities around the world. Fast courts, slow courts, you name it. Zverev always beats TFO, so that doesn't look too good for him. If he were to make the final, he'd probably want to see Demonauer. He got him a couple years ago. Fast indoor court. Paris was playing pretty fast a couple years ago. Tommy Paul, he's beat him once. He'd probably rather see him than center. He beat him a couple times in the juniors. Sinner, he only beat him one time in Vienna. That was a few years ago. Other than that, Sinner's got him 4 times, including this year, just recently in the Cincinnati final, of course, which wasn't, a very good first set, you could say. It's hard to beat a good player twice, but I would think Sinner would get him. I think Tifo really doesn't want to play Medvedev. Look at that. 5 in a row. Never beat him other than in qualifying. That was the only time he beat him. Did I say the juniors earlier? I meant qualifying. Let's look at the 2020. Hit the music. Well, I guess we don't hit the music because we have another section of the show coming up. So never mind. We keep rolling. This is the longest show. This will probably be the longest show I ever made in my life. Okay, so this is 2022 U.S. Open when Tifo had his first big breakthrough after 2019 against Dimitrov, making the quarters at the Australian Open. Tifo beat Rafa in 4 sets. So that was a pretty big deal for Tifo in 2022. He'd also beat Diego Schwartzman in the last year where Diego Schwartzman was playing pretty good still. After that year, his career went downhill. And, of course, he played his last match just like Dominic Thiem. So sad to see both of those guys. Tennis fans like myself, well, of course, I'm going to remember them forever. But outside of people who are like super fans of the sport, I don't know if they made as huge of a mark on the sport as others, obviously. Anyways, he beats Rublev. He goes to Alcaraz and comes very close, but loses 6-3 in the 5th to Alcaraz. And then would have had Casper Ruud in the final. If you're looking at this, Tifo actually, you could have argued at the time, especially with Alcaraz. Everyone knew Alcaraz was very good. He's the number 3 seed, but still, you would have thought he'd have a chance against Alcaraz. And if he did, he definitely would have had a chance against Casper Ruud at the U.S. Open, too, on a hard court. Tifo probably thought he had a chance to win this tournament. And I would say, that was one of his best chances in his career to win a major. And now this one, right up there, maybe even a better chance for him. He's a lot older and wiser, but I still just have a hard time picking him. Anyway, so that was a good run. Last thing on Tifo, this happened in the middle of his match against Popyrin. The sun turned the sky blood red. Maybe that's an omen that Tifo is going to drink the blood of his enemies and win this whole thing. I don't know. That's all I got on Tifo. Let's move on to the top half of the draw. De Minaur and Jordan Thompson are playing right now. Where are we at there? I think De Minaur is going to win this. The only question is the injuries he's had recently, is that going to pop up, be an issue? Doesn't look like it so far. 6-0 in the first, lost the second 6-3. He's won the third set 6-3. He's going to a fourth. We'll come back after the center match is over and talk about that a little bit more. Draper came through. Mahatch, really easy. Medvedev came through. Obviously, anyone with a big serve is going to like the U.S. Open. It's playing pretty fast. If it's not as fast as Cincy, which Draper did pretty good in Cincy, even if he was helped with the worst call of the year. When I look at this, obviously I think Sinner's going to beat Paul. I think Medvedev would love some revenge against Sinner. And I think with the court playing so fast, I think that's good for Medvedev. I think that might neutralize the power of Sinner a little bit. Maybe not. Maybe it's going to help Sinner just blow the ball past Medvedev even more. But I think it's going to help Medvedev get some winners as well. Typically Medvedev doesn't miss, doesn't make a ton of winners. But on this court, his ball is doing pretty well. He's not serving as well as usual. He started off strong on the hard courts. He hasn't really found it yet. I think he's lucky he lost at the Olympics earlier and was able to go lose in Canada and lose in Cincinnati and kind of get the badness out of his system. Like Djokovic said in all of his press conferences, or first and second round at least, he said, not feeling my best, not serving super well, and I'm hoping I can work my way through this round by round and find my game again. Well, Medvedev, since he lost earlier at the Olympics, he's had more time to get back to his hard court winning ways. Good for him that he had an easy one, but maybe not great that he's going to play a much tougher opponent up next. Sinner, you would think would win. That's been the trend with them lately, but it's hard to keep that up against other great players. So that's kind of a toss-up. We'll take a look at Sinner's match and talk about that in a little bit. And then, of course, Draper, I would like his chances against De Minaur, but De Minaur is one of those guys where he returns so well, and when a court plays fast, especially with his speed, he's able to soak up pretty much anybody, right? I think Zverev is going to be able to soak up the pace from Taylor Fritz pretty well, as we saw him doing at Wimbledon, even with not his best movement. Like he said, he was on one leg. And De Minaur is going to be able to do that, and then his offensive shots are going to really be aided by the fast court. So a lot of times we see guys like that do well with these kind of courts. Jannik Sinner and Tommy Paul looking like that. And this is the last thing I'll leave you with. Looks like he should win that one, even though he did lose a couple years ago to Tommy Paul on the grass. I'd give Tommy Paul a chance for sure, but I think Sinner's going to win in 3 or 4 sets. This is what Tommy Paul said about his game plan, and then we'll take a little break and come back after the matches are over. I'm definitely going to try and make it uncomfortable for him, Tommy Paul said. From the baseline, I wouldn't say I'm a better ball striker than Sinner. So I've definitely got to impose my game on him and try and play my tennis more than his tennis. The bang-bang tennis from the baseline, he's probably the best ball striker on tour, and I am not. I don't want to go toe-to-toe just banging on the baseline with him. I want to try and mix things up. Well, a fast court is a good place to impose your game on somebody. If Tommy Paul can serve really well and then not get stuck in long rallies, that's going to make Sinner have to change things up, and that might help him pull off the upset. Anyways, we'll be back in a little bit. And we're back. How about that match? Tommy Paul, he definitely tried to impose his game on Jannik Sinner, and it worked for a little bit. I think that performance, I mean, Tommy Paul came out playing pretty well, right? He really threw everything he had at it. And I think that performance from Jannik Sinner, down 4-1 in the first set, and then everything we saw since then, even having to be pushed into tie breaks, that performance there tells me the Sinner's winning this thing. It's like we have a new big two in Alcaraz and Sinner. This is really an opportunity, I guess, a tough one for Medvedev even, although I would say he is the biggest threat outside of Sinner. For Zverev, for Dimitrov, for the Americans, this is a big opportunity for them because Sinner's just going to get better. Alcaraz is just going to get better. And you're always going to have guys like Medvedev and Zverev there who I think will be dangerous for a while as well when you're talking about the Americans or someone like Alex de Minaur or any other young players up and coming who want to win majors. The big three are maybe gone now. I'm not going to say Djokovic is gone yet. I think he still can win majors, but surely he's not going to win too many more. But definitely Federer and Nadal are not going to be winning anymore. And, there's a lot of guys who didn't get the win because of them, and now we've got guys like Jannik Sinner who are going to make it very hard. How impressive was that? We'll look at stats in a second, but because I didn't talk about the doping thing too much, and I don't want to get into it tonight. I don't want to make this short and sweet and finish this video. It's already a very long video. We'll probably talk about this a little bit more in the next video, but let me just get to this. Rafa has now said something about Jannik Sinner's doping case. He said, I believe in people's good faith. I know Sinner, and I don't think he wants to be a dope. I believe in justice and the institution to make decisiones. I don't think that just because he is number one, I don't think this is why he has not been sanctioned. That's what Rafa has to say. And I agree with Rafa. I've been following Sinner and thought that he could do this for a long time. And it just doesn't fit with his personality, the way he is. I really don't think he intentionally did it. I think everything was done above board. The only thing I don't like is that it does seem like they prioritized him because of who he is, which, I mean, they should have. It's in their interest and big tennis's interest to keep this guy playing. But obviously, it's not fair to everybody else that they don't get treated the same way. And again, in the next video, we'll visit this. Djokovic, I thought, said a lot of good stuff on this one, talking about how that's why he started this PTPA, Players Association, kind of like a union for tennis players, sort of. Basically, every major sport has something like that anyways. But yeah, like a players union. And he said the main thing for him is to standardize this, standardize it. Treat every player the same, whether they're number one in the world or number 100, 500, you name it. Anyways, moving on. Let's look at this really quick. Medvedev, I feel like I know what I want to do if I win my next Grand Slam. What I want to do if. I like that he said if and not when. He's being realistic. Sometimes you do need to be a little bit realistic. Anyways, he wouldn't say that if he didn't have some confidence. I think he's probably the biggest threat here outside of Sinner. Kind of a shame that they have to play in the semifinal instead of the final, but it will be maybe the best match of the tournament. Definitely the final could be very good too. I'm thinking Sinner beats Medvedev in 4, Sinner beats Zverev in 4. I think this is how this one finishes. Zverev beats Fritz in 3 or 4. Tiafoe loses to Dimitrov in 4. I have a feeling that Tiafoe might actually win that one. But I'm sticking with Dimitrov. Dimitrov in 4. A lot of N4s. They're all N4. All my predictions are N4, pretty much. Anyways, let's look at some stats. Let's go to the Demon. So you can look at the net points won, and that'll tell you the story of the match for me. We'll look at the match summary first. Jordan Thompson, more aces, many less double faults, 5 less double faults, 2-7. That's a big difference. 61% first serves in compared to 53. 34 winners compared to 31. Those numbers are all good, but that's where the good stops, because in the most important statistics, Demon is winning. 79% win on the first serve, 57% win on the second serve, much better than his opponent. Receiving points won, he's winning 46% compared to 31. The break points won, not as high of a percentage, but 7 out of 13, a lot more breaking, whereas Jordan Thompson, 3 out of 4. Unforced errors, way less than half. 31 winners on 26 unforced errors for the Demon. 34 winners on 59 unforced errors for Jordan Thompson. If we break it down by set, well, first you can see the first set was a bagel. That's weird. It's a bagel, but Demon only got 29% of his first serves in. Guess he didn't really need it because he's winning 80% on the first, 75% on the second. Only goes to the net 7 times, but wins 5 of those. Keeps Jordan Thompson away from the net. Obviously, he needed to go to the net to win this match, and you'll see in the stats, he's 1 for 3 in this first set where he gets bageled. Let's skip that. Let's go on 1 winner on 12 unforced errors. Demon are positive with 8 and 5. We go to set 2, which the Demon lost to Jordan Thompson. And, yeah, he's beating him on second serve and less unforced errors, but that's it. Thompson comes into the net a lot more, coming in 17 times, winning 12 of those, 71% success rate. Only had one break point opportunity, but he took it. Did better on the return, won a lot more on first and second serve, only won more on first serve, but he got a lot more first serves in 79 compared to 55, so that can be very helpful. In the next set, doesn't get into the net as much, doesn't win as much at the net, whereas the Demon's coming in more, 6 for 7 in this third set, imposing himself more. I saw in that second set, the Demon seemed to be pushed back behind the baseline further more often, and Thompson was coming up with some great volleys. In the third set, it looked like Thompson was not pushing him back as much and was having to come in, same with the fourth set, was having to come in on stuff that wasn't as good and having harder volleys, not making as many of them, which obviously from the net stats, you can see that he comes in less and he wins less. In the fourth set, he comes in a lot. He comes in 26 times, but he's still, 65% is not bad, but, and look at this too, 2 aces on 0 double faults. Demon with 1 ace and 5 double faults. The Demon honestly, he just willed himself through this set and finished it 7-5 in the fourth, didn't want to go to a fifth, trying to keep his chances alive for going deeper into this tournament. He probably thinks this is a chance for him too, at least to get to Yannick Sinner, right? He thinks he has a chance to get there to Medvedev or Sinner into that semifinal. That'd be a pretty good result for him. Hit a lot of incredible passing shots and lobs in this match. I give the Demon a great grade for his performance. We'll give him an A, but I don't think he can beat Sinner. Maybe he could beat Medvedev if he is so lucky to see Medvedev in the semis. And again, on a fast court like this, it's good for guys like him who don't have as much power for sure, but don't be surprised if Jack Draper blows him away with all the power that guy has. Of course, I'm going to go with the experience as usual, and I'll take the Demon to win and lose to either Sinner or Medvedev in the semifinal. We go to Sinner with his incredible performance against Tommy Paul, Mr. TP. TP came out hot, threw everything he had at him. That's how good Yannick Sinner is. A big 3 style performance. That's really what I was thinking when I saw him go down 4-1. And then, it seemed like Tommy Paul was playing well. Sinner wasn't even necessarily playing terrible or anything. I'm missing some first serves. let's see, what do you have in the first set? What was his first serve in percentage? Oh, well, not that bad, but at 4-1 down, I think he was lower percentage than 59%, which is what he finished with in the first set. We'll go to the stats for the whole match. 49% first serve in. That was the only thing that Sinner didn't do as well as Tommy Paul. I mean, that was the only thing Tommy Paul beat Sinner, and otherwise Sinner beats him in every statistic here. Anyways, big three-like performance, the way he reacted after he was down 4-1. That was pretty incredible to see. Serving very well. 10 aces on 1 double fault for Jannik Sinner, 4 on 3 for Tommy Paul in the match. If we look at those net numbers, Sinner came in a lot, and he won a very high percentage, 80%, a lot for him, I should say, because what did Jordan Thompson came in like 100 times total. Tommy Paul came in 41 times. Sinner comes in 25 times, but he wins 80% of those points in the match. Very obvious that Sinner was sensing when he needed to come in, when it was appropriate, and doing it. Anytime he set himself up for an easy finish at the net, he went up there and did it, which is great. Something he's been working on with Darren Cahill the last couple of years. That's something that's paying off now. And part of the reason why he's probably going to win a lot of majors. Let's see. Let's move on to the first set and see how things shook out. Because that was where Tommy Paul, you would think, would have won some of the statistics here. The only thing he did better is the 100% breakpoint conversion rate, 2 for 2. Sinner, 2 out of 6. Sinner, 3 aces on 0 double faults. More first serves in, winning higher first serve percentage, winning higher second serve percentage. Second serve percentage pretty low for Sinner, but still a little bit higher than Tommy Paul's. Winning at the net 7 out of 8 times. Really, only came in when he knew he was going to win the point, which can be a very good thing. 10 out of 15 for Tommy Paul there. We go to the second set. Sinner winning 93% on the first serve. Yeah, not a lot of first serves in this second set, 43%. But winning almost 100% of them. Winning 65 on the second, that's a really good number. It's rare you see guys in the quarterfinal of a major playing a top 10, top 15, top 20 player able to win that much on their second serve. That's very impressive. Just goes to show you that if Sinner can get into a rally on anything close to neutral, he's probably going to win against most players. No matter what the court speed is, it's just how good. Sinner's kind of like the perfect player, right? He's very smooth looking too, but I'm not going to say his game looks as nice as Roger Federer's. But you'll definitely take the Sinner backhand over the Roger Federer backhand. Maybe not if we're talking about slice only, but if we're just talking about two-hand versus one-hand topspin, yeah, the Sinner backhand thing, it's pretty incredible. Sinner, he has a lot of the things that we see in Djokovic that we like so much, except he has more power. His movement, maybe not as good as Djokovic at his best as a mover, but Sinner's movement, and he's longer, so maybe if he's a tiny bit slower than peak Djokovic, well, he's longer, so he's got better reach. What about the attitude? That's, why I've always liked Sinner so much. It's kind of like what we heard about Bjorn Borg. I'm too young to have watched Bjorn Borg when he was a pro tennis player still. He retired, I think, like 4 or 5 years before I was born. But I always heard that Bjorn Borg, stayed very calm, showed no emotion. I've heard, though, he would get very angry. He got angry when he was younger, and maybe he was raging inside. Obviously, the guy retired when he was still like number 2 in the world because he lost to John McEnroe at Wimbledon and said, screw this. So that doesn't tell me that he's super calm. But Sinner, he appears like that on the outside, but I think on the inside too. I just don't see Sinner like flipping out, losing control of himself ever. So imagine Djokovic, if he has more power, more reach, maybe a tiny bit slower, not much, and way more in control of his emotions, less outbursts, less easily disrupted on the court. Not to take anything away from Djokovic, but I'm just saying, like, you see how Sinner, in a lot of ways, you can make a case that this guy is the perfect version of tennis as it has evolved from everything we have from the big three, all the changes they would have affected on the game with how they changed the game, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's pretty late. It's after midnight over here. It's been a long day. Anyways, hit the music. I'm getting out of here. Thanks for joining me on the show today. I guess I'll finish these stats. We'll go into the third set. Sinner again. Not many first serves going in, 42%, but he's winning 82. He's winning 53 on the second serve. 5 aces on 1 double fault. Great number there. I'll say Sinner's perfect player. He's not serving like Roger Federer. He's not hitting the spots like Roger Federer. Maybe he won't need to. I don't think the guys he's going to have to play, other than Alcaraz, other than Djokovic while he's still around, I don't know if they're going to be as good as the prime Rafa and Joker that Roger had to play against so often. Anyways, winning at the net, 2 out of 5, not as effective in the third set, but Tommy Paul, not much better, 5 out of 11. Break points 1, 2 out of 7, 0 out of 2. Tommy Paul not able to break. He only had a chance to break when he was down like 5-1. I think it was, yeah, he's down 5-1, had a chance to break and wasn't able to do it. Tommy Paul had no chance. A lot of unforced errors in this set. Not as many winners as Sinner, and Sinner has 5 unforced errors. Yeah, there you go. Thanks for joining us. We will be back probably Wednesday morning, some point Wednesday. I will get another video up. Make sure you check out the sponsor with the link down below, CoachLife. Thank you to them. It's been an interesting tournament. Not how I imagined it would be, but I'm enjoying it just as much as ever. Maybe I'll keep doing coffee break tennis even after the big three are retired and gone. I'm still having a lot of fun. A lot of that is thanks to you. See ya!